The Imperial Sunset Hotel stood like a jewel against the Los Angeles skyline, its Art Deco facade illuminated by warm, golden lights that pierced through the unseasonal spring storm. Rain drummed steadily against the pavement as a sleek black Escalade pulled up to the covered entrance, its wipers cutting rhythmically up the hurricane. Inside the marble-clad lobby, scattered guests lounged in plush armchairs, some tapping away on laptops while others nursed cocktails from the acclaimed hotel bar. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over the hand-painted murals depicting California's golden age, their vintage charm a testament to the hotel's long-standing reputation among LA's elite. At the front desk, Evan Thompson straightened his designer tie, his polished nameplate catching the light. He'd worked at the Imperial Sunset for 15 years, watching it transform from a simple luxury hotel into an exclusive destination for Hollywood's finest. The carved mahogany desk before him had seen countless celebrities, executives, and dignitaries check in. The glass doors swished open, letting in the sound of rain and distant traffic. A few heads turned as the new arrival's footsteps echoed across the Italian marble floor. Expensive leather shoes moving with unharried confidence toward the front desk. Calvin Snoop Broadus Jr. approached the desk with the easy grace of someone accustomed to moving through high-end spaces. His tailored charcoal suit spoke of subtle wealth, while his calm demeanor— "Good evening," Snoop said, his voice carrying its familiar, laid-back cadence. "I'd like a room for the night." He placed his platinum credit card on the counter with it. Evan's eyes flicked from the card to Snoop's face, then back to his computer screen. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, not typing. "I'm afraid we're fully booked for the evening, sir." The words came out clear, professional, tall. Snoop's expression remained neutral, though something flickered in his eyes. Recognition of a familiar dance he'd seen too many times before. "Your website showed a go build less than an hour ago," he said, keeping his tone even. Evan's lips tightened into what might have passed for an apologetic smile. "I've already checked, sir. Perhaps you could try them, marry it down the street. They usually have amperature more suited to her needs." The lobby had grown quieter, the soft music from the bar now more noticeable in the tense silence. Snoop's hand remained on his credit card, his composure unbroken despite the obvious slight. Just then, the glass doors parted again, admitting a couple in their mid-50s, the man in a navy blazer, the woman wrapped in a cashmere shawl against the evening chill. They approached the desk where Snoop still stood, shaking off droplets from their umbrella. Evan's demeanor transformed instantly, his face brightening with practiced hospitality. "Good evening, Mr. and Miss—" He paused, inviting them to fill in the blank. "Peterson," the husband supplied, removing his wire-rimmed glasses to wipe away the rain. "Let me check for you right away, sir." Evan's fingers danced across the keyboard, the same keyboard that had remained untouched during Snoop's request moments earlier. "Ah, yes, we have a lovely deluxe suite on the 15th floor. Beautiful city views, even in this weather. Would you prefer something closer to the executive lounge or perhaps—" As Evan eagerly outlined the hotel's amenities, Snoop remained motionless, his presence seemingly forgotten by the desk clerk, who now leaned forward conspiratorially toward the Petersons as though sharing insider secrets about the hotel's best room. Mrs. Peterson glanced uncertainly between Snoop and Evan, a flicker of recognition and discomfort crossing her face. Her husband, absorbed in his wallet, noticed nothing amiss. "I thought you said there weren't any rooms available," Snoop interjected quietly, his voice carrying just enough to make Evan pause mid-sentence. The lobby's ambient music seemed to fade further. Snoop's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, decades of similar experiences teaching him to channel his anger into something more strategic. His eyes met Evan's, holding them steady with the quiet dignity of someone who had built an empire by turning others' prejudice into fuel for success. Without another word, he slipped his credit card back into his wallet and consoled. The message in his silence was clear. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Before Snoop could turn away, the glass doors whispered open once more, A young man in his 20s strolled in, dressed in a gray hoodie with Stanford Law emblazoned across the chest, dark jeans, and fashionable sneakers. His sandy blonde hair was slightly damp from the rain as he approached to the front desk, AirPods still nestled in his ear. Snoop stepped aside, positioning himself near a decorative column where he could observe the interaction unfold. He pulled out his phone, appearing absorbed in emails, while his attention remained fixed on the scene before him. "Hi there," the young man said, removing one AirPod. "Last minute, change your plans, right? Because any chance you've got a room for tonight?" His expression shifted seamlessly back into professional warmth, his earlier coldness towards Snoop forgotten. "Of course, sir. Let me check our availability." His fingers resumed their efficient dance across the keyboard. "We have several options available. Would you prefer the city view or something overlooking the garden terrace?" The young man leaned casually against the counter, scrolling through his phone. "Whatever's cheapest is fine. Just need a place to crash before my meeting tomorrow. We can offer you our deluxe king room at our corporate rate," Evan replied smoothly. "It's quite comfortable, and you will have access to our business center if you need to prepare for your meeting." From his vantage point, Snoop watched the easy transaction unfold, each moment crystallizing a truth he had known since childhood but experienced anew with each generation. His thumb hovered over his phone's screen, no longer maintaining the pretense of checking messages. The familiar weight of realization settled in his chest. This wasn't about room availability. The young man's hoodie was no different from Snoop's designer's suit. The backpack slung over his shoulder carried no more legitimacy than Snoop's platinum card. The only difference lay in assumptions made at first glance, judgments cast before a single word was spoken. As the young man collected his key card and headed toward the elevators, Snoop's mind was already racing ahead, mapping out possibilities. He'd spent decades building businesses, breaking barriers, and creating change. Now, standing in this lobby, he recognized another opportunity to transform not just the space, but mindsets. The steady rain had intensified, yawning against the hotel's glass facade as Snoop pushed through the revolving doors into the night. Water immediately beaded on his suit jacket, but he didn't quicken his pace. Instead, he stood motionless. Through the glass, the lobby's warm glow painted a deceptive picture of welcome. Evan had already returned to his routine, his practiced smile now directed at another guest. The scene could have been a photograph from any high-end hotel, except Snoop knew the truth that lurked beneath its polished surface. Memories flickered through his mind. Record labels that wouldn't sign him because his music was too urban. Real estate agents who mysteriously couldn't show him properties in certain neighborhoods. Country clubs that suddenly became members only when he inquired about membership. Each rejection had only fueled his drive to succeed, to build something greater than the barriers others tried to place in his path. His driver stepped forward with an umbrella, but Snoop waved him off with a subtle gesture. The rain fell, cleansing now, washing away the immediate anger and leaving behind something more purple. Inside the lobby, the chandelier light seemed to dim slightly as clouds thickened over. But Snoop had evolved beyond such predictable responses. His gaze swept across the hotel's facade, taking in its Art Deco details, its prestigious reputation, its potential for transformation. A plan was already forming in his mind, one that would address the root of the problem rather than just its symptoms. Lightning flashed in the distance, briefly illuminating Snoop's face. His expression remained calm, but his eyes held the sharp focus of a businessman who'd spotted an opportunity. Without another glance at the front desk, he turned and walked to his waiting car, each step measured and deliberate. As the Escalade pulled away from the curb, the Imperial Sunset Hotel's reflection shimmered in the rain-slicked street. Little did Evan know that his discriminatory actions tonight wouldn't just be it. The Escalade glided through LA's rain-slicked streets, city lights blurring into watercolor streaks against the windows. Inside, Snoop sat in contemplative silence, his mind drifting through the accumulated weight of similar experiences across decades. The luxury car's interior felt far removed from his early days. He pulled out his phone, opening a news article about the Imperial Sunset Hotel's parent company, Starlight Hospitality Group. The headline caught his eye. Luxury hotel chain faces financial struggles amid changing market. His fingers tapped thoughtfully against the leather armrest as he scrolled deeper into the story. The memories surfaced unbidden, clear as photographs. His mother's tight grip on his hand as they were turned away from a department store in 1976. The security guard following him through a high-end boutique even after his first platinum record. The real estate agent's nervous laugh when he inquired about a Beverly Hills property. Each incident had taught him something valuable about power, about age, and about the subtle ways discrimination adapts to be. But times were different now. He'd built an empire that spanned music, technology, and real estate. His network included CEOs, politicians, and community leaders. He'd learned to transform rejection into opportunity, to see business potential in society's blind spots. The Imperial Sunset's prejudice, it was inevitable. The car pulled into his favorite late-night diner, a modest spot that had served the same perfect coffee for 30 years. As he settled into his usual booth, laptop open before him, the pieces began falling into place. Starlight's Hospitality's stock had been declining for months. Their attempt to maintain exclusivity had left them vulnerable in a market that increasingly valued diversity had inevitably. Rain continued to batter the diner's windows as Snoop immersed himself in research. Revenue reports, property valuations, market analyses, each document added another layer to his emerging strategy. The Imperial Sunset wasn't just a hotel, it was a symbol of outdated thinking. His phone buzzed, a text from his attorney, Lisa Chad. "Still up? We've got something interesting to discuss." He smiled, fingers already typing a response. Lisa had helped him navigate countless business deals, understanding instinctively how to turn moral imperatives into profitable ventures. The diner's night shift waitress refreshed his coffee without asking, familiar with his late-night work sessions. The warm aroma grounded him as his plan took shape. This wouldn't be a confrontation or a complaint to management. This would be a complete reimagining of what luxury hospitality could mean in modern America. He opened his contacts, scrolling to his financial team. The hour was late, but this couldn't wait until morning. The market was shifting and timing would be crucial. His finger hovered over Lisa's number as he considered the scope of what he was about to set in motion. In his mind's eye, he could already see the Imperial Sunset transformed. Not just its policies, but its very culture. The chandelier-lit lobby could become a space where everyone felt that same warm welcome, where excellence meant more than exclusivity. The hotel's prestigious reputation could be enhanced, not diminished, by true inclusivity. His decision crystallized with the clarity that had guided every major success in his career. He lifted the phone to his ear, Lisa's number already dialing. The time for quiet observation was over. Tomorrow, the Imperial Sunset Hotel would learn that they'd unknowingly served their last night under old management. "Lisa," he said when she answered, his voice carrying the calm confidence of absolute certainty. "How'd you like to help me buy a hotel?" As rain drummed against the diner windows, Snoop's mind drifted back to his summer afternoon in 1976. He was just 5 years old, holding his mother's hand as they approached Hartwell's department store in Long Beach. His mother had dressed them both carefully that day, her in a pressed floral dress, him in his Cletus shorts and polo shirt. But the store manager's expression had nothing to do with their clothes. "We're closing early today," he had announced, though other customers continued browsing inside. Young Calvin hadn't understood then why his mother's hand trembled slightly. Later that evening, he'd overheard her on the phone with his grandmother. How do I explain to him that some people will never see past the color of his skin? The pain in her voice had carved something permanent into his young heart. Not just her, but determined. The diner's coffee warmed his hands now as the memory faded into the present. That little boy couldn't have imagined becoming a cultural icon, building a business empire, or having the power to buy a prestigious hotel on a moment's notice. So here he sat, laptop glowing with a financial. His mother's question from that long-ago evening echoed in his thoughts. How do you explain systemic racism to a child? Maybe you don't. Maybe instead you show them how to build something better. The Imperial Sunset's discriminatory practices weren't just an echo. His fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, drafting an email to his investment team. This purchase wouldn't just be about acquiring property. It would be about reshaping perception, creating spaces where no child would ever feel the sting of rejection his 5-year-old self had experienced. The Imperial Sunset's transformation could ripple through the entire hospitality industry, proving that true luxury meant becoming everyone. The diner's neon sign cast a blue glow through the rain-streaked windows as Snoop pressed Lisa's contact. 3 rings later, her familiar voice, "Calvin, it's past midnight. Please tell me this isn't about another late-night business idea." Despite her groggy tone, he could hear her shifting, probably already reaching for her laptop. "Lisa, I need you to help me buy the Imperial Sunset Hotel by morning." He kept his voice steady, letting the weight of the request sink in. "I've been looking at their financials. Star Hospitality Group is vulnerable. Their stock's down 30% this quarter." A pause, then the sound of fingers typing. "The Imperial Sunset? That's a $50 million property, minimum, and you want it by morning." Snoop described the scene at the hotel, his words measured and precise. As he spoke, Lisa's typing intensified. "Their apparent company's desperate in liquid assets," he continued. "We can leverage that, make an offer they can't let. Give me a minute to pull up their latest filings," Lisa said, professional instincts fully engaged now. "You know this kind of fast-track purchase comes with risks. We'd have minimal time for it." Meanwhile, Lisa's legal mind was already racing through scenarios, her words picking up pace with each passing moment. "We'd need to coordinate with at least 3 banks for financing this quickly, not to mention the regulatory hurdles." She paused, then added with a knowing tone, "But something tells me you've already thought this through." "To check their debt structures," Snoop suggested, his own laptop screen reflecting in his glasses. "They've got a major refinancing deadline coming." "I see it," Liza replied, her voice shifting from skeptical to strategic. "We could use that as leverage, but Calvin, even with your resources, this timeline is aggressive. That paperwork alone would normally take weeks." "Then we don't do it normally," Snoop stated firmly. "I need your best work tonight, Lisa. This isn't just business, it's about making a statement that can't be ignored." The line went quiet for a moment, save for the sound of rapid typing. Then Lisa spoke, her voice carrying the focused energy he'd come to rely on over years of deal-making. "Give me an hour to wake up my team and draft the preliminary offers. Bite your bag breakfast, everyone being involved in." "Done," Snoop smiled, hearing the determination in her voice that meant she was fully committed. "And Lisa, make sure the purchase agreement includes immediate operational control. By tomorrow morning, I want to be able to walk through those doors as the owner." While waiting for Lisa's next update, Snoop leaned back in the diner booth, memories washing over him like the rain outside. 1989 flashed in his mind, standing in that death row versus office watching executives. Then came 1995, flush with success but still facing closed doors. The real estate agent's face when he'd inquired about a Bel Air property remained vivid. "Are you sure this neighborhood would be comfortable ever for someone like you?" 2003 marked another battle, launching his clothing line. High-end retailers initially refused to stock it, claiming their traditional customer. Each victory had required more than just talent or money. It demanded strategic patience, the wisdom to transform rejection into opportunity, and the vision to see beyond immediate obstacles to larger possibilities. He'd learned to fight prejudice not with anger, but with excellence and innovation. The rain's rhythm against the window intensified, matching his deepening resolve. Tonight's incident at the Imperial Sunset wasn't just another example of discrimination. It was a chance to address something more fundamental in American society. Hotels like the Imperial Sunset didn't just sell rooms. They sold an image of exclusivity, yet often masked systemic bias. His phone buzzed with updates from Lisa's team, but his mind was already racing ahead to tomorrow. He envisioned the Imperial Sunset, transformed not just its policies but its entire culture. The same lobby that had witnessed his rejection would become a symbol of inclusive luxury, proving that excellence and equality could coexist and thrive. This wouldn't be like his previous victories, which had primarily built new enterprises from scratch. This time, he would transform an existing institution from within, challenging the very assumptions that had shaped its identity. The purchase wasn't just about acquiring property. It was about proving that Jane... His fingers drummed against the coffee cup as another text from Lisa appeared. The night was far from over, but his purpose had never been clearer. Every closed door in his past had prepared him for this moment, teaching him how to turn prejudice into progress, rejection into reformation. The pre-dawn hours buzzed with intense activity as Lisa orchestrated a complex financial dance. Conference calls echoed through empty offices across 3 time zones, with bleary-eyed bankers and lawyers racing to structure the deal. Starlight Hospitality's CFO, awakened by urgent calls, initially balked at the aggressive timeline but grew more receptive as the offer details emerged. The debt covenant requirements are our leverage point, Lisa explained during a rapid-fire video call. They need this cash injection before the quarter ends. We're offering them a clean exit from a struggle. Legally, teams traded document drafts with dizzying speed, red lines flying back and forth as dawn approached. The main sticking point emerged around operational control. Starlight's board wanted a gradual transition, but Snoop's team held firm on the immediate hair. Their entire management team stays in place for 90 days or no deal. Starlight's lawyer insisted, his tie loosened after hours of negotiation. Lisa's response was diplomatic but unyielding. As the sky began lightening outside the diner window, the final hurdles cleared one by one. 3 banks confirmed their financing portions. Insurance certificates were expedited. Regulatory compliance officers signed off on the accelerated timeline, impressed by the thoroughness of Lisa's team's preparation. The last signature landed on the purchase agreement just as the first rays of sunlight broke through the storm clouds. The Imperial Sunset Hotel had a new owner. Snoop stood at the diner's window, watching the rain finally ease as confirmation emails flooded his phone. The satisfaction settling over him wasn't just about the purchase, it was about what would come next. He scrolled through the final documents on his tablet: property deed, operational agreements, employee contracts. Each page represented not just a business acquisition, but a platform for change. The Imperial Sunset's prestigious address would now serve. His team had already begun implementing the transition plan. New security codes were being programmed, management systems were being transferred. By the time he walked through those doors again, it would be as owner, not as an unknown crime. Lisa's voice cut through his thoughts. Everything's confirmed. The property is officially yours. Snoop smiled, watching the sun continue its rise over Los Angeles. Filing complaints doesn't change systems. Owning them does. He settled the diner bill, leaving a generous tip for the night shift that had kept his coffee cup full through the long hours. Outside, the morning air felt fresh after the storm, carrying the promise of new beginning. His driver held the car door, but Snoop paused, taking in the brightening sky. In a few hours, he would return to the Imperial Sunset, not to prove a point to one prejudiced employee, but to begin. The morning sun streamed through the Imperial SNC's glass doors as Snoop strode into the lobby, his footsteps echoing with purpose across the marble floor. The space looked different in daylight, less imposing, more vulnerable to change. Early guests milled about with coffee cups and newspapers, while the front desk staff began their morning routine. Evan stood at his usual post, straightening already perfect stacks of papers. His practiced smile flickered as he recognized Snoop approaching, likely assuming this was another attempt to secure a room. The events of last night hung in the air between them, unspoken. "Good morning," Snoop said, his voice carrying no call to draw attention from nearby staff. He placed a leather portfolio on the counter, letting his fingers rest on its own. Evan's professional mask slipped slightly, uncertainty creeping into his expression. "Sir, as I explained yesterday, we don't have any official—" "That won't be an issue anymore," Snoop interrupted smoothly, opening the portfolio. He removed a single document, sliding it across the polished counter. "Since I now own the—" The color drained from Evan's face as his eyes scanned the property deed. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the paper, looking between it and Snoop with growing comprehension. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. "This is I don't understand," Evan stammered, his earlier confidence evaporating. "The hotel wasn't even for—" "Everything's for sale at the right price," Snoop replied, his tone measured but firm. "And discrimination comes with its own cost, one you'll be learning about shortly." Several other staff members had gathered nearby, drawn by the mounting tension. Snoop turned to address them all, his voice taking on a tone of quiet authority that commanded attention without demanding. "I wanted to experience this hotel as a guest," he continued, his words deliberate and clear. "Instead, I'll be transforming it as an owner." Evan's mouth opened and closed, but no words emerged. The carefully constructed world of his discriminatory practices was crumbling around him, replaced by a new reality he hadn't seen coming. His name tag, once worn with such smug authority, now seemed to weigh heavily on his chest. "Your termination paperwork is being processed," Snoop informed him. "Security will escort you to collect your belongings." He turned to the gathered staff, his expression softening slightly. "The rest of you, please prepare for an all-hands meeting in 30 minutes. We have a lot of work ahead of us." The hotel's crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the Imperial Sunset's main ballroom as staff members filed in, their whispered conversations creating a nervous buzz. Housekeepers, maintenance workers, front desk clerks, and management all found seats, their usual hierarchical divisions temporarily forgotten in the face of such unprecedented. Snoop stood at the front, his presence commanding attention without demanding it. He waited until the last person settled, then stepped forward with the same quiet confidence that had built his empire. "First, let me be clear, this isn't just a change in ownership." He began walking slowly between the rows of chairs, making eye contact with various staff members. "Luxury isn't about exclusion. True excellence comes from making everyone feel valued, regardless of their appearance, background, or social status. From this moment forward, we're redefining what a experience." Near the back, Maria Rodriguez, a veteran housekeeper, straightened in her chair. For 15 years, she'd watched countless instances of subtle discrimination, always feeling powerless to speak up. "Some of you have witnessed or experienced discrimination here. Others may have participated in it knowingly or unknowingly." Snoop paused, letting his words sink in. He outlined immediate changes, new training programs, revised hiring practices, community outreach initiatives. Each point emphasized both accountability and opportunity. making it clear that this transformation would reach every aspect of hotel operation. Maria felt tears welling in her eyes as Snoop described his plans for promoting from within, particularly among staff who'd been overlooked. Beside her, James Maintenance nodded slowly, in his initial skepticism giving way to cautious hope. "There is a suggestion box by the exit," Snoop concluded. "I want to hear your ideas, your concerns, your experiences. This transformation isn't just mine, it belongs to all of us." He gestured to Maria, who'd raised her hand tentatively. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "for seeing what needs to change." Around her, other longtime staff members nodded in agreement, their expressions reflecting a mix of relief and anticipation. The meeting ended with a new energy filling the room, as if the hotel itself was awakening to its potential for positive change. The morning's hopeful energy began to fade as subtle resistance emerged throughout the hotel. In the executive offices, Richard Chen, the longtime operations manager, sat reviewing Snoop's. During management meetings, a small but influential group of veteran staff members exchanged knowing glances whenever Snoop spoke about inclusion initiatives. Their silence spoke volumes, and their delayed responses to requests began creating small but persistent obstacles. "We've always done it this way," became their mantra, delivered with practiced politeness. When Snoop introduced new customer service protocols focused on eliminating bias, Chen's team cited operational concerns and guest expectations to justify maintaining the status quo. Behind closed doors, whispered conversations revealed deeper anxieties. "He doesn't understand our clientele," one manager confided to another. "These changes will drive away our high-end guests." The resistance wasn't just about procedures. It was about preserving a system that had benefited them through his. Snoop observed it all with keen awareness, recognizing the subtle power plays for what they were. He'd faced similar resistance in every industry he'd transformed, and each time patience had proved as powerful as direct confrontation. Then the sabotage began, so subtle it was almost invisible. Reservation systems mysteriously glitched when certain guests tried to book. Maintenance requests from diverse clientele faced unexplained delays. Training materials for new inclusion policies just before scheduled sessions. Important emails landed in spam folders. Conference room bookings for diversity training disappeared from the system. Customer feedback forms highlighting positive experiences with the new policies vanished from the front desk. Chan's quarterly reports painted a grim picture of declining customer satisfaction, though the raw data told a different story. Social media reviews praising the hotel's new inclusive atmosphere were quietly flagged as suspicious, while negative comments gained surprising traction. One morning, Maria discovered the new bilingual welcome signs had been accidentally replaced with the old English-only versions. The next day, the updated guest feedback tablets were found with their batteries removed, conveniently forcing a return to the old paper forms that Chen's team controlled. But each act of sabotage left tiny traces, digital fingerprints, security camera footage, witness accounts. Like breadcrumbs leading to a forest, they created a trail that would soon tell its own story. Snoop watched and waited, gathering evidence while the resistance grew bolder, unaware they were writing their own dismissal notices with every act of defiance. Within days of the new management taking over, Maria Rodriguez found her voice in unexpected ways. During a morning housekeeping meeting, she noticed younger staff members hesitating to share concerns about discriminatory treatment they'd witnessed. Drawing on 15 years of experience, she stood up and calmly described patterns she'd observed, the different ways certain guests were treated, the subtle dismissals, the unspoken rules that had governed service quality based on appearance or accent. Her colleagues listened with growing attention as she connected their daily experiences to the larger changes Snoop was implementing. She spoke in both English and Spanish, ensuring every teammaker fully understood. "We're not just cleaning rooms anymore," she explained. were part of making this hotel truly welcoming for everyone. Soon, staff members began coming to her with questions and concerns. She created an informal support network, helping housekeepers document incidents of bias and coaching them on professional ways to address discrimination when they witnessed it. Her phone filled with text messages from colleagues seeking advice or sharing observation. During training sessions, Maria's practical examples helped bridge the gap between policy and reality. She taught her colleagues to recognize subtle signs of prejudice and shared strategies for an equal service quality. Her years of careful observation had given her insights that even management consultants couldn't. Word of her leadership reached Snoop through the daily reports. He found her organizing an impromptu meeting in the laundry room, where she was teaching newer staff members how to handle difficult situations with dignity and professionalism. Sometimes the biggest changes start in the smallest places, Snoop observed, joining their discussion. Maria's momentary surprise gave way to confident engagement as she explained how they were implementing his vision at the ground level. Their conversation evolved into regular meetings, where Maria provided invaluable insights into the hotel's daily operations. Her perspective helped shape new policies and procedures, ensuring they worked practically as well as theoretically. You don't just see problems, Snoop told her during one such meeting, you see solutions. Her suggestions had already improved guest satisfaction scores among international travelers, and her training methods were being adopted across departments. Other staff members noticed how Snoop valued Maria's input, and it changed their own perceptions of what was possible. The housekeeper, who had once worked quietly in the background, was now helping to reshape one of Chile's most high-credit hotels, proving that leadership could emerge from any leverage when given a chance of vision. The Imperial Sunset's transformation began at dawn one Monday as construction crew descended on the property. The ornate but deterred lobby, which had once silently declared not everyone belongs here, started its metamorphosis. Local artists worked alongside contractors, their scaffolding becoming temporary bridges between past and future. The grand staircase, once a symbol of elevated status, received a dramatic reimagining. Each step now featured inlaid quotes about equality and human dignity, written in multiple languages that reflected the city's rich linguistic tapestry. The handrails, previously cold brass, were replaced with warm, hand-carved wood from sustainable sources, each panel telling stories of different cultural traditions. The crystal chandeliers remained, but their light now fell on new surfaces. Walls textured with patterns from various world cultures, floors inlaid with designs that celebrated unity and diversity. In the main restaurant, the renovation went beyond aesthetics. The space was redesigned to accommodate different dining styles, from traditional table seating to more casual lounge areas. The menu underwent its own transformation, expanding to include dishes from various cuisines while maintaining the hotel's reputation for excellence. The hotel's exterior received subtle but significant updates. The entrance, once intimidating in its grandeur, now featured a gently sloped walkway alongside the original steps. Native California plants replaced the formal European-style gardens, creating a sustainable landscape that honored the local environment. As physical changes took shape, new policies and practices emerged to match the transformed space. The front desk implemented a revolutionary greeting system. The staff were trained in multiple languages, and digital translation tools were readily available. Welcome packets now included information about local cultural sites and community events alongside traditional tourist attractions. Room service menus expanded to include dietary options from various religious and cultural traditions. The concierge team underwent extensive training in cultural competency, learning to recommend experiences that respected and celebrated guests' diverse backgrounds. Even the hotel's signature scent was reimagined, moving away from traditional European florals to a blend that incorporated. Check-in procedures were streamlined to eliminate potential bias, with room assignments now handled through an automated system that prioritized guest preferences rather than subjective staff decisions. The hotel's dress code was carefully rewritten to respect cultural attire while maintaining professional standards. Staff uniforms received thoughtful updates allowing for religious head coverings and offering options that respected different cultural norms while maintaining a cohesive professional appearance. The employee handbook was completely revamped, with clear guidelines about inclusivity and zero tolerance for discrimination woven into every section. Throughout the renovation, Snoop ensured that each change served both practical and symbolic purposes. The new prayer room wasn't just a gesture of religious inclusion, it was beautifully designed and centrally located, sending a clear message about the hotel's values. Every modification, from the new art to the created policies, everything feel luxury meant to create. The hotel's grand ballroom buzzed with anticipation as Snoop introduced Dr. Maya Richardson, the new general manager, standing at the podium in a tailored navy suit. "The Imperial Sunset isn't just changing ownership," she began, her voice carrying authority earned through 2 decades in luxury hospitality. "Merit of excellence isn't about exclusivity. True excellence isn't about exclusivity. It's about creating an environment where everyone gets to." She outlined her vision with precision, each point backed by data and experience. Under her leadership, the hotel would implement blind hiring practices, ensuring candidates were evaluated solely on merit. Training programs would expand, offering clear paths through advancement to every employee. Guest satisfaction metrics would be overhauled to measure not just traditional luxury standards, but also inclusivity and competence. "Our competitors see diversity as a checkbox," Dr. Richardson continued, her passion evident. "We'll make it our competitive advantage. When guests choose the Imperial Sunset, they'll experience something unique, luxury that celebrates our shared humanity." The staff's reactions to Dr. Richardson's leadership emerged in waves. Veterans of the industry, initially skeptical of such dramatic changes, found themselves won over by her methodical approach and clear communication. She didn't just demand changes, she explained the reasoning behind each decision, backed by market research and industry trends. Maria and her housekeeping team became some of Dr. Richardson's strongest supporters after she spent a full day working alongside them, experiencing their challenges firsthand. The maintenance staff appreciated how she prioritized their safety concerns, immediately approving updated equipment requests that had been pending for months. Even Richard Chen's former allies in middle management began shifting their stance as Dr. Richardson's initiatives showed early success. Guest satisfaction scores rose steadily, particularly in areas previously overlooked by traditional metrics. Employee retention improved as staff members saw genuine opportunities for. During daily operations meetings, she demonstrated a leadership style that balanced efficiency with empathy. When a front desk clerk made an honest mistake, her open-door policy wasn't just words. Staff members regularly found her accessible for conversations about everything from operational challenges to personal career goals. She remembered names, family details, and individual aspirations, weaving these personal connections into a stronger organizational fabric. "Dr. Richardson doesn't just talk about change," Maria commented during a staff meeting. "She shows us how to make it happen, step by step." Around the room, heads nodded. The tension in Dr. Richardson's office was palpable as she held up the anonymous letter that had been slipped under her door overnight. The message, crafted from newspaper clippings, delivered its warning with chilly clarity. "Keep pushing your agenda, and you will regret it. Some traditions shouldn't change." Security footage revealed nothing, but the cameras covering that corridor had mysteriously malfunctioned during a 2-hour window. IT confirmed it wasn't a random glitch. Someone with inside knowledge of the hotel's systems had orchestrated this. More subtle threats followed. Dr. Richardson's office computer was found mysteriously logged into, files accessed, but nothing obviously altered. key corporate accounts started receiving emails questioning the hotel's new direction, all traced back to anonymous servers. Reservations from certain zip codes, particularly wealthy and predominantly white neighborhoods, began dropping, suggesting an orchestrated whispered campaign. The resistance had shifted from passive to active, from bureaucratic delays to something darker. Longtime guests reported receiving concerned calls about the hotel's changing atmosphere, though no one would reveal the source of these warnings. Maria discovered similar notes in the staff break room, each one aimed at creating fear and division among employees. "Remember who really belongs here," one read, an implied threat clear beneath the surface. Upon hearing about the threat, Snoop called an immediate meeting with his security team and Dr. Richardson. His demeanor remained calm, but his eyes carried the intensity that had helped him over decades of similarity. "We're not just fighting old habits," he observed, studying the collected evidence. "We're fighting fear of change itself." He immediately authorized enhanced security measures, including new surveillance systems and background checks on all recent system accesses. But Snoop's response went beyond mere defense. He announced an expansion of the hotel's transformation program, accelerating diversity initiative and community outreach. "When they push back with fear," he told Dr. Richardson, "we respond with bold progression." The next morning, Snoop called a press conference, publicly announcing increased investment in the hotel's inclusive programs. He turned the threats into a platform for positive change, transforming potential scandal into a story of determination and progress. "Those who resist change," he stated firmly to the assembled media, "should understand that threats only strengthen our resolve. The Imperial Sunset will continue moving forward, building a future where luxury and inclusivity go hand in hand." The Imperial Sunset's grand ballroom transformed into an unconventional training space as employees gathered for the first of many team-building workshops. Instead of traditional rows of chairs, round tables created intimate discussion groups where housekeepers sat alongside executives. Maintenance workers shared space with sales managers, breaking down a long-standing hierarchical barrier. Dr. Richardson opened the session with a powerful exercise. Each employee wrote down a time they'd felt excluded or undervalued, then shared their story with their table. The raw honesty of these conversations created immediate connections across departmental lines. A veteran bellhop describing passed over for promotion despite his experience. An accounting clerk revealed her struggles with discrimination. Professional facilitators guided the groups through scenarios drawn from real hotel situations, challenging teams to find solutions that balanced efficiency with empathy. Role-playing exercises put managers in their employees' shoes, and vice versa, creating eye-opening moments of understanding. Cultural competency training went beyond superficial diversity seminars. Staff members became teachers, sharing insights about their own cultures and traditions. The hotel's chef taught colleagues about dietary restrictions across different religions. A ranch desk cook led a workshop on greasing customs from around the world. The most powerful sessions focus on unconscious bias. Through carefully designed exercises, employees discovered their own hidden prejudices and learned practical strategies for overcoming them. These revelations led to emotional yet breakthrough moments, with long-time staff members acknowledging and confronting their own role in perpetuating exclusive practices. Throughout these transformative sessions, Maria emerged as a natural facilitator of change. Her ability to bridge different perspectives made her invaluable during group discussions. She had a gift for helping resistant employees see the human impact of discriminatory practices, often sharing her own experiences with quiet dignity that commanded respect. During one particularly challenging session about language barriers, Maria's intervention turned potential conflict into breakthrough. When a manager expressed frustration about non-English speaking guests, Maria facilitated a conversation that transformed understanding. She helped create a new communication protocol that would later become standard practice across the list. Her leadership style, marked by empathy and practical problem-solving, became a model for the kind of cultural change Snoop and Dr. Richardson envisioned. Other employees began emulating her approach, creating a ripple effect of positive transformation throughout the organization. The morning headlines hit like a storm. Luxury hotels' new management drives away elite clientele. In a calculated series of interviews with local media outlets, Evan painted a picture of chaos at the Imperial Sunset. This carefully worded statement suggested that service standards had plummeted under the new ownership, while simply avoiding any divergence into lawsuits. Anonymous quotes, clearly orchestrated by Evan, began appearing in hospitality industry blogs. The Imperial Sunset used to understand its clientele, one read. Now it's sacrificing quality for political correctness. Another claimed that longtime guests were fleeing to competitor hotels, though no actual statistics supported these assertions. Evan's networking skills, honed over years of managing the hotel's elite guests, proved dangerous. He leveraged connections with local social clubs and business organizations, spreading whispered concerns about the hotel's new direction. Some of the city's most influential event planners received lengthy emails detailing secured incidents of declining standards, each anecdote crafted to play on fears of change without explaining detail. Social media amplified his message. Suspicious one-star reviews appeared on multiple platforms, all following similar patterns. The campaign reached its peak when Evan orchestrated a concerned citizens meeting at a rival hotel, inviting former guests and local business leaders to discuss the decline of traditional hospitality standards in Los Angeles. Though careful to maintain plausible deniability, his fingerprints were all over the event's organizing. Snoop's response came swiftly but strategically. Rather than engaging in direct confrontation, he invited the major media outlets for an inside look at the hotel's transformation. Cameras captured the new training programs, the expanded services, and most importantly, the genuine interactions between backgrounds. Dr. Richardson became the face of their media campaign, her impressive credentials and articulate vision making her the perfect spokesperson. She presented data showing increased guest satisfaction scores and growing bookings, directly contradicting Evan's claimings. The hotel's PR team crafted a narrative that positioned the Imperial Sunset as a pioneer in modern luxury hospitality. They highlighted stories of guests who had previously felt unwelcome at high-end hotels, but now found a home at the Imperial Sunset. These personal testimonials, featured in both original and social media, powerfully countered Evan's abstract complaints about standard. Through it all, Snoop maintained a dignified silence about Evan himself, letting the hotel's success speak louder than any personal attacks. "We're not fight one person's tragedy." The late afternoon sun cast long shadows to the Imperial Sunset's windows when smoke began seeping from beneath the door of the main storage room. Maria, finishing her round on the service floor, noticed the acrid smell first. Her immediate reaction saved precious minutes, pulling a fire alarm before even investigating the source. Within seconds, the hotel's emergency protocols kicked into action. Security staff coordinated guest evacuations, while Dr. Richardson personally ensured all employees were accounted for. Snoop, arriving minutes after the first alarm, found an efficiently managed scene. Guests and staff gathered safely in the designated area, first responders already on site. The fire contained to the storage room had clearly been intentional. Investigators found accelerant traces near carefully positioned piles of linens and paper supplies. The sprinkler system had activated quickly, preventing major structural damage, but the message was clear: this was no. The hotel's newly installed air handling system had prevented smoke damage to guest areas, but the psychological impact rippled through the staff. For many, this crossed a line from professional disagreement to dangerous sabotage. Even employees who had been hesitant about recent changes rallied around Dr. Richardson, who had Snoop united against it. As cleanup crews worked through the night, Snoop gathered his security team in the surveillance room. "Show me everything," he instructed, his voice carrying the calm intensity of someone who'd faced similar challenges before. "Every camera, every angle, every person who entered that area in the last..." The security footage revealed a devastating story. Frame by frame, they watched as Thomas Weber, a former maintenance supervisor who'd resigned shortly after Evans' departure, used his old access codes to enter the building. The timestamps showed him making multiple trips to the storage room, carefully timing his movements between. Further investigation of Weber's recent communications revealed dozens of text messages and calls with Evan in the days leading up to the fire. Bank records showed a substantial cash deposit to Weber's account the morning of the incident. Most damning was the security footage from the hotel's parking garage, showing Evan's car meeting Weber's just hours before the fire. Their conversation, though silent on camera, included Evan handing over what appeared to be an envelope. Levin's guilty expression as he glanced around confirmed the suspicious nature of their interaction. The footage also captured other subtle details, Weber using Evan's old office computer, accessing areas that should have been restricted, and methodically disabling specific security cameras. His actions show intimate knowledge of the hotel's systems, knowledge that could only have come from someone with inside information. As the investigation team compiled their findings, it became clear that Evan hadn't just orchestrated a smear campaign, he'd escalated to actively endangering lives in his desperate attempt to undermine notable transformation. The evidence would prove crucial not just for criminal charges, but for exposing the true nature of resistance to change. The morning after the fire, Snoop called an all-staff meeting in the hotel's largest banquet. Employees filed in, their faces showing a mix of anxiety. "Yesterday, someone tried to destroy what we're building here," Snoop began, his voice steadying and resolute. "They didn't just attack our property. They attacked our vision of what this hotel can become." He moved away from the podium, choosing instead to walk among the staff as he spoke. He outlined the immediate security enhancements, new access control systems, additional cameras, enhanced background checks for all contractors. But more importantly, he addressed the emotional impact of the incident. Fear is a natural response to what happened, but fear can either paralyze us or make us stronger. The choice is ours. Dr. Richardson joined him, sharing plans for additional staff support services, including counseling for anyone who needed it. Together, they emphasized that every employee's safety was their top priority. The message was clear. The hotel would protect its people as fiercely as its principal. Maria stood up, sharing how her team had already volunteered for extra shifts to help with cleanup. Others followed her lead, offering their own commitments to keeping the hotel running smoothly. The mood in the room shifted from intensity. As preparations for the grand reopening intensified, Snoop's leadership style shone through every detail. He wasn't just directing from above, he was in the trenches with his team. During late-night planning sessions, he worked alongside staff, reviewing security protocols, updating emergency procedures, and fine-tuning the guest experience. The renovation timeline, already aggressive, now faced additional challenges. But Snoop turned this setback into an opportunity, using the repair work as a chance to implement even more ambitious improvements. The damaged storage area would become a state-of-the-art security command center. New fire safety systems would exceed industry standards. Marketing teams worked overtime to counter negative publicity, creating a narrative of resilience and renewal. Social media campaigns showcased the hotel's unwavering commitment to inclusive luxury. Celebrity supporters and community leaders pledged their attendance at the reopening, turning potential crisis into anticipated triumph. Every department contributed to the preparations. Housekeeping developed new protocols that balanced heightened security with guest comfort. The culinary team planned a reopening menu celebrating diverse cultural traditions. Front desk staff practiced enhanced safety procedures while maintaining their warm welcome staff. Through it all, Snoop's calm confidence never wavered. "This isn't just about reopening a hotel," he reminded his team during a final planning meeting. This is about showing the world that positive change can't be stopped by fear or hatred. Spotlights illuminated the Imperial Sunset's restored facade as celebrities, community leaders, and media gathered for the grand reopening. The hotel's entrance, now featuring both classic steps and an elegant accessibility ramp, welcomed guests through doors held open by proudly uniformed staff. Television cameras captured the scene as Snoop, Dr. Richardson, and Maria Tearjerker. Local news anchors highlighted the hotel's transformation, focusing on its innovative approach to luxury hospitality. Business journals praised the property's successful blend of traditional elegance with modern inclusivity. Social media buzzed with images of the redesigned spaces, the stories of the hotel's commitment to change. Dr. Richardson led media tours showcasing new features like the multilingual concierge service and culturally inclusive dining options. Celebrity guests shared their own experiences of discrimination in luxury spaces, praising the Imperial Sunset's new vision. Community organizations celebrated the hotel's commitment to local hiring and diversity initiatives. The staff moved through the celebration with visible pride, each employee embodying the hotel's transformation. Housekeepers confidently guided guests through restored rooms, highlighting new amenities. Restaurant staff proudly presenting diverse menu offerings, sharing stories behind each dish, cultural significance. Maria, now promoted to guest services director, watched her team execute flawlessly. Their professional confidence a testament to months of training and personal growth. 3 days after the reopening, an unexpected letter arrived at Snoop's office. Eben's handwriting filled 3 pages with a raw, honest reflection on his actions. He described his journey after leaving the hotel, the struggle to find work, the gradual recognition of his own prejudices, and the shame that finally led to. Watching the reopening coverage, Eben wrote, "I saw everything I'd fought against. Success built on inclusion, excellence achieved through diversity. My resistance wasn't about maintaining standards. It was about maintaining my own prejudices. I can't undo my actions, but I can acknowledge their wrongness." Snoop read the letter twice, noting the absence of excuses or self-justification. After careful consideration, he composed a brief response. "Recognition of past mistakes is the first step toward creating a better future. Your actions caused real harm, but your willingness to acknowledge them publicly might help others examine their own biases. That's not forgiveness, it's hope for change." Maria's new office overlooked the same lobby where she had once pushed a housekeeping cart. Her journey from housekeeper to guest services director embodying the hotel's transformation. Her management style blended the practical wisdom gained from years of frontline service with newly developed leadership skills. During executive meetings, her insights proved invaluable, bringing a ground-level perspective that enhanced every policy decision. She had developed a particular talent for identifying potential issues before they became problems. For years of careful observation now serving her in a different. Snoop watched Maria's evolution with quiet satisfaction, recognizing in her the same determination that had driven his own success. During a leadership conference where Maria presented the hotel's innovative training programs, he noticed how naturally she commanded the room, her authentic leadership style, inspiring others. "You've helped create something remarkable here," he told her after the presentation, both of them knowing he meant more than just the hotel's transformation. Her growth represented everything the Imperial Sunset now stood for, the power of recognizing potential in unexpected places. The offer arrived on expensive letterhead, $100 million for the Imperial Sunset Hotel. Vista Sunset Hotel, a rival chain, saw the property's soaring success and wanted to add it to their portfolio. Their CEO personally called Snoop, suggesting they could maintain certain aspects at a fucking time. Snoop's response was brief but resolute. The Imperial Sunset isn't just a business asset. It's a testament to what's possible when you choose inclusion over exclusion, growth over tradition, human dignity over profit margin, something down. During the next board meeting, he made his position clear. We're not building a hotel chain, we're creating a blueprint for change that's worth more than any offer. As twilight settled over Los Angeles, Snoop stood at the Imperial Sunset's rooftop garden, watching guests mingle in the lobby below. Through the atrium's glass ceiling, he observed a scene that would have been impossible just months ago. A Muslim family checking in while wearing traditional dress, greeted with watching genuine romantic general. Elderlers greeted the tender by interventions impossible material outlay. The hotel had become more than just a successful business venture, it was the living proof that change was possible. Every interaction below represented a small victory over ingrained prejudices. Each smile exchanged between staff and guests, a tiny revolution against generations of exclusion. He thought about Maria's journey from housekeeper to executive, about the former critics who now praised the hotel's innovative approach. The transformation hadn't been easy. The fire, the threats, the resistance, all had tested their resolve. But each obstacle had only strengthened their commitment to proving that excellence and inclusivity could coexist, that true luxury meant making everyone feel good. As the city lights began twinkling against the darkening sky, Snoop considered the broader implications of their success. If one hotel could transform from a symbol of exclusion to a beacon of inclusion, what else could change? How many other institutions, built on similar foundations of prejudice, could be reimagined? The question hung in the air, unanswered but full of possibility. What if everyone chose to see people for who they are, not what they look like? What if every business, every organization, every community took that same leap of faith toward inclusion? The Imperial Sunset story didn't end with its transformation. It was just the beginning of a larger conversation about what could be possible when people dared to challenge the status quo and imagined a more inclusive world.